This is the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Sam today. Sam is off for the day as we are kind of running a bit of a weird show today, as we originally were all set to go this morning at our normal studio location, but ran into some internet issues studio-wide, so it wasn't anything, unfortunately, anything prominent that we could do about. So we had to make some changes. I had to run back to my house to do the show here, so I'm doing it live from my little studio at home. But anyway, I still got a lot of good stuff to chat with you about today, so I appreciate you guys all tuning in. This is the BG Sports Show that you can find usually here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Good morning to all of you on Periscope. A few of you have been checking in. Apologies for starting a little bit later than we normally do, but that's kind of how it worked out this morning with some of the internet issues that we ran into at our normal studio. But still a lot of great things to get to today. A few different categories and topics in sports to cover today as well. We'll be talking a little bit later on in the program about all the craziness surrounding Johnny Manziel and Jahlil Okafor as well. The new college football playoff rankings are out. And, of course, Major League Soccer's championship is on Sunday as well, so you better believe we're going to talk a little bit about that. But a lot of other good things to get to today as well. But before we do all of that, just want to take a moment to remind all of you that you can find us right here on Spreaker.com and on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365 and tune in. You can also get us on demand on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker.com, and on Podbean as well. And for those of you that love social media, you can find us on Facebook by going and liking our Facebook page at The BG Sports Show. And you can also go to Twitter and Instagram and follow us at BG Sports Show. You can follow myself at Baxter Colburn. And you can follow Sam at Samuel_Wallace2. Like I mentioned, today is a little bit of a different show for us as we roll on. Sam was on the show this morning. He was ready to roll, but since we use the studio at the school that Sam attends, like I said, the internet was not working, so Sam is still a college student, unfortunately, so he had to go to class, so he was not able to hang around and come back and do it here with me. So, a lot of good things to get to. The first thing I want to touch on is actually about baseball, so I know everybody hold on. But there was some big baseball news that came out yesterday that I think warrants a conversation. And I think it's a little ridiculous, personally, but the Boston Red Sox have added to their already impressive roster by going out and signing former Toronto Blue Jays pitcher David Price. Now, this is a very interesting contract because it is the largest contract in baseball this offseason. I believe it might be the largest contract ever as well. I would have to double check on that one. But the point being, though, is that this deal is a 7-year, $217 million contract. $217 million contract for 7 years. All $217 million are guaranteed. That is insane. I don't even know if anybody else in any other sport has ever seen that much money in their entire career, let alone have it all guaranteed. I do find it interesting, though, right off the bat, a lot of different players in different sports immediately reacted to it when they heard about it. They're like, whoa. What do you mean he's getting paid $217 million for 7 years? Michael Floyd from the Arizona Cardinals tweeted out saying, stating the details of the contract, but then saying that NFL players, the most that they can ever be guaranteed in a contract is $60 million. And it sparks a long debate, I'm sure, about why baseball players are paid more, why football, basketball, etc., why there's so much all over the placeness when it comes to baseball contracts and other sports contracts as well. But it's interesting because this deal does actually involve an opt-out clause in 2018, which would be after the third year of his contract for David Price with the Boston Red Sox. I think that's a smart move. You want to make sure you give yourself a little bit of an out that way. If things aren't going well, if the management is not doing well, he has to at least give 3 seasons of his time, of the 7 that he is asked to do of his baseball contract for the Boston Red Sox. So I think David Price is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. I think he did a lot of great things for the sport. We even saw how well Toronto was able to make a postseason run as well this year because of the great pitching of David Price. It's a little interesting, though, because traditionally Boston not one of those teams that's going to go out and drop, $217 million on one player, but that's kind of how it worked out this year for them. They were able to save up enough money in their little piggy banks there, broke the bank with the hammer, and was like, David Price, well, yes, indeed, we'd love to sign you, sir. So they brought him in. Remember, though, the Red Sox do have a new general manager as well, Dave Dombrowski as well, but this is definitely a record-setting monument for him in his managerial, or his general manager career, but also for the team as a whole. I mean, you talk about David Ortiz, who's retiring after the end of this upcoming season. Team's going to need a new focal point of who fans are going to want to go watch. I mean, David Ortiz, he's 40, but I would still pay a lot of money to go watch David Ortiz play, regardless of the fact if he's 40 or 25. So now that they've got this new ace pitcher in David Price, the Boston Red Sox certainly have become much more relevant. And maybe I've been watching a little too much of what the New York Yankees are doing, because this seems something like what the New York Yankees would do with having to spend gratuitous amounts of money just to bring in players that they want. But with that being said, though, it is something to make note of, though, is that the St. Louis Cardinals, actually, according to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, were the second team, one of the many teams, but they finished technically in the runner-up spot in the race for David Price, which would have been very interesting because St. Louis already has a pretty good bullpen, or a pretty good starting rotation as well, and if they would have been able to add David Price to that, we already saw how good St. Louis was this last year. Getting them another player like David Price would have made them exponentially even more outrageously dangerous. This is the 7th largest contract in baseball history as well. The monster deal is the 7th largest in baseball history, and the most ever for a pitcher, though. For those of you that are Dodger fans, I'm sure you remember Clayton Kershaw's deal. He signed a $215 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers, back in 2014. The $31 million annually that David Price is going to be making is not the record, though, because it sounds like, it might not be the record for long, because it does sound like Zach Greinke could bring home a bigger deal over the next 5 or 6 years. Right now, the Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants are considered the front runners for Zach Greinke. It's very interesting to see where that all transpires. And I just need to take this outside for a moment and just talk about it in regards to why. Why do baseball players need this much money? And I know that this is a debate that I would love to have Sam on for, because Sam and I am sure could go on and on and on for hours about this, but I just find it a little ridiculous that baseball players need to be paid over $100 million. And I get it. They play over 100 games every year. They're a lot of wear and tear on their body, but even still, I feel like paying $217 million for one player, one singular player, especially a pitcher, where he, doesn't even play every single game. He's in a rotation, so he'll play, once every 4 to 7 days, depending on, the slate of games. I just don't feel like it's worth it. I would rather take $217 million and go in and bring a ton of new players and actually make my team relevant. Boston missed the playoffs this last year because of not having proper depth, because of not having, strong bats and a strong pitching rotation. By bringing in more players through more money, I think that makes way more sense, because it's like buying the Lamborghini or buying 3 or 4, it's like saying, all right, you can have one of two things. You can either have one incredibly expensive, super fancy, flashy, nice car, or you can buy 4 reliable, gas, mileage-friendly, eco-friendly, storage-friendly, whatever cars for the same price. As much as I'd love that super expensive car, I'd want those 4 cars, because I want cars that I want the longevity. I want people that are going to help make sure that everything that I'm doing as an organization, as a team going forward, is going to be something that's going to benefit me. One player does not completely change a team, especially in baseball. Baseball, I understand, is a team sport, but you also, being a pitcher, have control over the entire game. I just don't find that it's the best use of resources, and I think that Boston is going to regret that when it comes to looking down their roster saying, shoot, I wish we would have been able to bring in some more people with that money that we gave all to David Price. But that's not how it's going to work. Instead, David Price is now the most lucrative man in all of Major League Baseball, making a little over $31 million a year, which is ridiculous. I don't think I'll ever make I don't even think I'll make $31 million in my entire career, let alone him making it in 1 year. So David Price, he's doing something right. He knows what he's doing, apparently. He's a fantastic pitcher. I don't want to take anything away from David Price, but either way, don't exactly agree with the move. I think that Boston is going to end up regretting this move in the long run. It was very uncharacteristic of the Red Sox organization and not exactly what they stand for. So I'm curious to know what happens with David Price down the road. So I'm going to jump to a break. We've got a lot of good things to get to still. College football, NFL injuries, Major League Soccer, and Jahlil Okafor, Johnny Manziel a little bit later on as well. Before we do that, I want to take a moment to remind all of you that you can find the BG Sports Show on our new website. You can go to bgsportshow.podbean.com and you can catch all the latest episodes. That's podbean.com. You can download the app on your smartphone and listen to it. That website, once again, is bgsportshow.podbean.com. We'll be back with some more right after this here on the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Sam today. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, we ran into some internet issues at our normal studio, and Sam had to get off to class. So I was like, well, I'll run to the other studio and do it there. So we're doing the show remotely instead of in our normal place that we do it. But still got a show for you. Still going to be walking you through a bunch of different things that we want to talk about on the show today. So next thing we want to jump into right away. It's exciting. The college football playoffs. We're just a week away from the championship week, as the Big Ten championship and all kinds of other championships, except for the Big 12, because they think they're above conference championships, apparently. I don't understand why, but they are. We have so many exciting different things happening. The new college football playoff rankings are out, though, which are causing a little bit of a row and a little bit of a stir around the country, which rightfully makes sense. The new top four that's out right now is number 1 is Clemson, number 2 Alabama, number 3 Oklahoma, holy cow, and number 4 the Iowa Hawkeyes as well. Oklahoma jumping over Iowa, which makes sense, rightfully so, until I don't really feel like even if Iowa wins out the rest of the way that they will move up above the 4th spot, but that's just kind of how it goes. As long as you're in the top 4, that's all that matters really when it comes to the college football playoff. Rounding out the top 10, though, Michigan State is at 5, Ohio State 6, Stanford 7, 8 Notre Dame, 9 Florida State, and 10 North Carolina. Didn't realize they were that good at football. Anyway, but I digress. So, looking at this new top 10, or new top 4, I guess, is all that really matters. It's nice to see Oklahoma finally breaking back in. I feel like Oklahoma hasn't been relevant since Sam Bradford and Adrian Peterson were on their team many, many moons ago. But it's a good thing for the organization, good thing for the team to finally get back in the top 4. Looking at this top 8, I know that there was much discussion about just how relevant Iowa is going to be. I mean, Iowa is undefeated. They're one of 2 undefeated teams in the entire top 25. Sad side note, though, that Wisconsin did drop out, but that doesn't really surprise me at all. Northwestern jumped all the way up to 14th, by the way, after their victory over Wisconsin. Oklahoma State and Florida, they've both dropped down pretty terribly, which rightfully so. You lose a game in college football, you're pretty much screwed, unfortunately. So, Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Iowa. Looking at Clemson, they're 12-0, Alabama 11-1, Oklahoma 11-1, and Iowa 12-0. I find it interesting that 3 out of the top 10 teams in the college football playoffs, 4, 5, 6 respectively, are all from the Big Ten. Probably one of the best years the Big Ten has seen in a long time, so congratulations to Iowa, Michigan State, and Ohio State. Ohio State jumping up 2 spots in this week's poll rankings. Interesting spot, though, to think about for Ohio State, as I feel like Ohio State is the one team in college football that everybody either loves or hates, because you never see a middle-of-the-road Ohio State. It's either they're really good or they're not that great, because Ohio State is always going to be in the conversation. I get it. They've got a great organization, great head coach in Urban Meyer, good players, but it doesn't always have to be about Ohio State. The college football world does not need to circulate around what Urban Meyer and what the Ohio State Buckeyes do on a yearly basis. It just doesn't. And I don't understand why people make it such a big deal when Ohio State is either in the playoffs or when they're not. Because when they're in the playoffs, obviously they are a heavy favorite. That makes sense. I totally get that. They're good. They're a good team. They really are. You want to see good college football? Go to an Ohio State football game. But when they're not in the top 4 or the top whatever, it's okay. That just means the rest of the world is actually stepping up their game for once and actually playing high-class quality football. You know, the one team, though, that I'm excited to see, and I hope that they make it into the top 4 just because I've been able to catch a few of their games this year, is Stanford. I think Stanford's played fantastic this year. They've got a great offensive product. They've got some terrific players on their team. I mean, they're 10-2 overall in the Pac-12 right now. The only games that Stanford have lost this year have been opening day, where they lost to Northwestern 16-6, and then they lost to Oregon a few weeks ago 38-36. So Stanford, though, I've never really had a problem with Stanford. I think that they're doing all the right things out there, and I really am impressed by the guys that they've got on their team right now. So you look at the big guy that stands out to me, though, is Christian McCaffrey. He's been lights out, one of the best players in college football this year at such a young age. I mean, he's an athlete. He really is. You talk about it, he's had 287 carries for 7 touchdowns and almost 1,700 rushing yards this year. Just an absolute animal of a player. He can do everything. He's been in the return game. We've seen him on the offense in terms of receiving. We've seen him running the ball as well. I really don't feel like there's anything Christian McCaffrey can't do for the Stanford. You know, it's just an overall really, really good guy. I'm looking at him reception-wise. He's leads the team in receptions with 37 receptions, 435 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns receiving to his name this year as well. So I'm just not sure if you are, pardon me, had an itchy nose. Looking at Stanford, though, I mean, they're in 7th. There's a lot of things that would have to go wrong, or a lot of things that have to go wrong for other teams as opposed to in terms for Stanford to get in. Ohio State and Michigan are going to have to lose. One of the top 4 teams is going to have to lose as well, honestly, but it's kind of the odds against Iowa, or the odds are kind of against Stanford, unfortunately, unless they're able to go out and get a massive win at the end of the year. But I just have a hard time believing that Stanford's going to be able to do that. Just considering like they're going to do enough. And I don't feel like the committee is going to be able to honestly walk in and say, you know what? I think they'll be just fine. Stanford plays USC this coming week, and it's not like they're playing, a top 10 team. They're playing USC, who's not in the top 10 right now. Looking here, USC's 20th in the college football playoff. So that's a bit of a stretch. I don't foresee, even if Stanford does win, which I do believe they should fairly handily, although I know Stanford-USC games can get a bit heated at times. Obviously, the big Pac-12 rivalry, that's the word I was looking for. The big rivalries out there certainly cause a good ruckus for fans and give them something to talk about and cheer about while they're out there. Looking around the rest of the way, though, Michigan State at 5, I feel like they've done enough to be relevant, but are they going to get in? I don't know. Looking at this top 10, though, or even this top 8, I am still a firm believer, and I said it when I first found out about everything, and I'm sure for those of you that have listened to the show long enough, you know that I'm a firm believer that this college football playoff system needs to go to 8 teams. I feel like if we took the top 8 teams right now, Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State, Stanford, and Notre Dame, that would be one kick-ass college football playoff. I think that would be absolutely incredible, honestly. If we did if we broke it up 1 versus 8, that's totally fine. Or we can do 2 brackets of 4 and then meet in the middle. Whatever they got to do. But even still, Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama, Stanford, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Iowa, Michigan State. Like, those are marquee top-class games. And I feel that if college football wants to continue to stay relevant, I get it. The fighting for those 4 spots, it's so crucial. I totally understand that. But being able to be in the top 8 spots would make so much more sense. I don't think it needs to go to 16. I think that's way too many. I like just 8. Top 8. Top 8 teams in the country. That gives it enough opportunity for many people to still step in and get an opportunity to showcase what they can do. So you shorten the college football season by a week or 2. No big deal. I mean, those kids are going to still be playing, 2 or 3 or 4 more games, in the playoffs, but you're just not playing. You're only playing maybe 9 or 10. You're playing maybe 10 regular season games instead of 12 or 13, depending on, what conference and play you do. So I'm curious to know what everybody thinks about that, though. What do you think about the new college football playoffs? You can find us on Twitter at BG Sports Show, at Baxter Colburn, and at Samuel_Wallace, too. We're going to jump to a break, and when we come back, we're talking about Jahlil Okafor and Johnny Manziel. And the fact that they need a bodyguard, and if they're going to be, what all these off-field issues mean for them going forward. But before we do that, we want to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors of the BG Sports Show. That would be Student Debt Center. You can call them today to have your student loan payment reduced by calling 855-401-3508. That number again is 855-401-3508. We'll be back with more right after the break. You're not going to want to miss it. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Sam today. Sam's off for the day, but we'll be back tomorrow, and better than ever. Usually on Wednesdays at this time, we talk about our new NFL Power Rankings, but we will actually be saving that for tomorrow. That way, Sam and I can do it together and tell the whole wonderful world about all the new and exciting Power Rankings for the BG Sports Show, which our staff votes on every week. A few new movers and shakers, as we say every week, but you might be surprised by a few of the rankings, and some of them you might just be like, yeah, well, that makes sense. So either way, though, I just want to remind all of you that if you enjoy listening to the BG Sports Show, we ask that you would consider becoming a financial supporter of the show as well. You can do that by going to our website, bgsportshow.podbean.com, and you can click on Become a Patron button you can click on the Become a Patron button in the top right-hand corner. We appreciate your support and your continued listenership of the BG Sports Show as well. Well, it is time to talk about the bad boys of the NBA and NFL. No, that's not it. Well, kind of, because looking at it, Johnny Manziel, once again, in trouble. Jahlil Okafor of the NBA, in trouble. Well, not again, but just in trouble. But two very interesting situations. These guys were highly acclaimed, highly accoladed, highly everything you want in college. They pretty much had the world handed to them on an oyster saying, here you are, do what you need to do, and let's go from there. However, looking at Mr. Manziel, let's start with Johnny, because I could go for hours on these two boys, but I'm not going to. I can call them boys because I'm older than both of them. Not by much, but I'm older than both of them. Well, I don't know if I'm older than Johnny. I'm older than Jahlil, for sure, but I don't know if I'm older than Johnny. I'd have to check the stats on that one. Check the sheets. He might have a year on me. Either way, Johnny Manziel, about a week ago, was a video emerged of him partying in a Texas nightclub, shouting obscenities, drunk off his you-know-what, having a good old time when the Browns were on a bye week, and rightfully so. I would do the same thing if I was on the Browns, honestly. Somebody asking on Periscope, do I know Stephanie Menden? No, I do not. I'm sorry. I've never heard of that person. Thanks for asking, though. But Johnny Manziel, though, what he was doing was, I understand that he was trying to, have a little fun. It's his bye week. You make millions of dollars in the NFL. You deserve a week off. You deserve to do all that. Yes, of course. Yes, but don't be a stupid idiot about it. Good Lord, Johnny. And he was saying, oh, that video was an old video. It wasn't anything. No, it wasn't. There's music in the video that came out over the last month or so. And it's not that hard to track. You can check when songs are released. And I doubt he was at some exclusive party years ago or a year ago, whatever he claimed it was originally, with songs that hadn't even been written yet or hadn't even been recorded yet. So unless he found a way to travel in time, which, we don't have that technology yet, which I'm sure the government would like you to think. Just saying. Anyway, but I doubt that he, of all people, Johnny Manziel, had the opportunity to time travel and to say, oh, no, it wasn't that. But anyway, if you are the head coach to the Cleveland Browns, first of all, your Browns team is in disarray. You're a dumpster fire of the NFL, basically. You've only won 2 games this year. You lost the last game based off a blocked field goal because you guys don't know how to block. I get it. The guy was offsides. He stepped out of bounds, blah, 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 whatever. The fact is that the Baltimore Ravens won, Browns lost. So get over it, okay? There's nothing that can really be done about it from henceforth out. But Johnny Manziel, oh boy, what do you? It's kind of like the old Sound of Music song. How do you solve a problem like Maria? How do you solve a problem like Johnny Manziel? Really, if you are the Cleveland Browns, you're faced in a very difficult situation right now because your first-round draft pick guy. It's be different. I feel like it was totally different if he was never a first-round draft pick. 100 times different situation right now, but he was a first-round draft pick. The Browns made the move by drafting him, late first round when he was brought out of college a few years ago. And since that point, he's never really panned out. He's shown small flashes of greatness, but he's never really been able to keep a starting job. He's kind of like that deadbeat college student that, will have flashes of excitement, flashes of commitment where he's like, you know what, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to prove my parents wrong, I'm going to prove my old man wrong, he never said I'd amount to anything. He goes out, he works hard for a week or two, and then something goes wrong at work or something happens, and then suddenly he's like, you know what, no, screw this, I'm going to just go home, I'm going to do what I want and I'm my own man, I don't need, somebody else to tell me what to do or this, that, or the other, whatever excuses, deadbeat college students make nowadays. I don't know, I never was a deadbeat college student, but even still, I'm sure that there's plenty of them out there, though, that think that they know the right thing to do. Yes, of course. Yes, you are, 21 years old or 19 years old. Tell me how hard life is. Tell me how #the struggle is real. No, it's not. Shut up. Grow up. Go to college. Do it. Get a job. Meet a nice person. Settle down and live your life. Don't be an idiot. My tip for the day. Anyway, when it comes to Johnny Manziel, though, and your Cleveland, Josh McCown is now out for the year with a broken collarbone, which is unfortunate because I've always thought that Josh McCown was a pretty good quarterback, honestly. I don't ever tell him that to his face, but I did think he was a fairly decent quarterback. However, you now have to figure out if you're Cleveland. Do you go with your prodigal child of Johnny Manziel, or do you go with Austin Davis? Austin Davis, who was being billed as the next Brett Favre from Southern Miss. I don't know. I get all those misses together. From Southern Miss. After he had such a record-breaking college year, he went to the Rams, I think he had one good half a season in the Rams when Sam Bradford tore his ACL for the 34th time, and, did all right, but never really accomplished much, and then found himself now in the Cleveland Browns. He came into the latter half of this last game, went 7 for 8, tossed the touchdown, looked pretty darn good. But now if you're Cleveland going forward, you've got Johnny Manziel, who is a veteran, or you've got Austin Davis, who, pardon me, goodness. I need an intern to get me water. This is ridiculous. Anyway, or you've got Johnny Manziel or Austin Davis going forward if you are the Cleveland Browns. Do either of those sound appealing? Probably not, no. But realistically, the safer, the best option is Austin Davis. He's a good quarterback. I've never had a problem with Austin Davis. I actually had him on my fantasy team for a little while whenever he was relevant with the Rams. I think it was 2 years ago, I'd have to double check. But yeah, Austin Davis, good solid quarterback, good kid, got a good head on his shoulders, doesn't come from stupid amounts of money that make him a spoiled little brat of a person. So I think Austin Davis is the best move for the Cleveland Browns going forward. Do I feel that Manziel could have a come to Jesus moment and, could turn his life around? Well, absolutely. I think everybody, no matter how good or bad their situation might be in life, is capable of turning things around. And I do hope Johnny finds, I hope he has his come to Jesus moment here, and he is able to figure out what makes the most sense going forward. But that's not where he is in his career right now. He, I feel like, needs to work out all the kinks still. Like I mentioned, he's still in college. He is harnessing his reputation of being Johnny Football, and he's just going off from there. So, we have a question on Periscope from Chicago Liger. What about Chicago on their draft? Are you talking about the Chicago Bears, I'm assuming? And if so, if you are talking about the Chicago Bears, I feel like the Chicago Bears need to start thinking about the future and getting replacements in for Jay Cutler. I think they need to get a little bit more depth at wide receiver as well. And then their defense, I'm sure, could use some shoring up as well. But quarterback with Jay Cutler, I think, is maybe one of the best spots they need to start on. They don't really have any consistent backups. We've seen Cutler bothered by injuries a little bit the last few years as well. So I haven't done enough research yet, unfortunately, to know some of the good quarterbacks coming out of college football this year. But that's probably something that the Bears are going to want to start thinking about sooner rather than later. The Dallas Cowboys are going to also want to start doing that with Tony Romo as well. But switching back over to the conversation that we were just having, sorry for having it mostly Johnny Manziel, but I want to make mention of what is going on with Jahlil Okafor. So first of all, congratulations to the Philadelphia 76ers for finally getting a victory. Congratulations. They're now 1-185. No, they're 1-18, I think. So congratulations to them. Find it a little ironic. For those of you that, haven't heard, Kobe Bryant's retiring. Yes, he's retiring. It's fine. But Kobe Bryant is retiring and is now getting the Derek Jeter treatment, where he is getting a farewell tour basically now around the NBA. The first game was in Philadelphia, which is where he played high school basketball. There was a nice little celebration before the game, presenting a jersey from his high school saying, "Hey, we love you, man. You're great. Thanks for everything, Philadelphia. Woo!" And then the Sixers go out and beat the Lakers for their first win of the year on Kobe Bryant night, if you want to call it that, in Philadelphia. So, but talking about Okafor for a moment, he's had some pretty good games so far this year. He's been hitting some double-doubles. He's been looking, like the top prospect that folks thought he was. However, he was a stupid college kid the other day and tried to get into a nightclub or a bar, I forget which one it was, with a fake ID. For those of you that don't know, Okafor, I believe, is 19. Pretty sure he's 19 or 20 at the most. That's not 21 last I checked. And the fact that he's not just some random college kid, especially in the city of Philadelphia. He's probably the most recognized figure in Philadelphia right now, aside from Chip Kelly. You look at, Jahlil Okafor. He's not a short guy. He's pretty tall. You've got some tall-looking guy walking in looking like a basketball player. I'd be like, I think you're Okafor. Wait a minute. Didn't you come out of college after your freshman year? Doesn't that make you 19? Yeah, no, you're not old enough to be in this bar. Get the heck out. I don't care who you are. You're not going to get in. That's illegal. So what have the Philadelphia 76ers done now? They've assigned him a babysitter. They've assigned him a bodyguard. So now Jahlil Okafor, while he'll be working on his guarding down in the paint, he will have his own personal bodyguard guarding him and keeping an eye on him as he goes around so he's not an idiot. If the Philadelphia 76ers were not a hot mess already, well, they are now. So, man, oh man. Okafor, Johnny Manziel, you guys need some serious help. Hello to our good friend here in Brazil. I don't know how to pronounce your name, sir. I'm sorry, but hello from Brazil. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, the NFL is just littered with injuries this year. We're going to talk about some of the newest ones and what it means to those teams going forward. Back with more right after this. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I am Baxter Colburn. No Sam today. Sam is off for the day. He'll be back tomorrow, though, as we will continue to roll on with the exciting week of BG Sports Show action. Remember, we've got the new power rankings coming out tomorrow instead of today. They'll be out tomorrow for all of you NFL fans, and you can hear about all the craziness as the BG Sports Show staff was in absolute terror and just couldn't even figure out what to do with themselves when it came to the power rankings this week. It's always funny because the first usually 4 to 6 teams are fairly easy to figure out, but once you get past usually the top 5, everyone's just like, to hell if I know who to vote for anymore. But either way, we've got a new top 10 power rankings coming out for you tomorrow. It's time to talk about some NFL injuries, but before we do that, just a word from one of our sponsors. That would be Student Debt Center. You can call them now to inquire about your student loans being reduced by calling 855-401-3508 to make one easy student loan payment and to stop or avoid garnishments from your check. That number again is 855-401-3508. All right, looking at the injuries that continue to pile up around the NFL. Oh boy, it's not pretty. More injuries for big players continue to happen. We saw Rob Gronkowski, we saw Jimmy Graham, two elite tight ends, both going down. Jimmy Graham done for the year. Gronkowski, he's week to week, so that at least is good for him. We also saw Ben Roethlisberger. He got a concussion this last week. Josh McCown is done for the year with a broken collarbone. Chris Johnson will miss extended time with a fractured tibia, which just sounds terrible. How in the world? Dolphins wide receiver Rashard Mathis sustained multiple broken ribs. I don't even know. Ahmad Bradshaw from the Indianapolis Colts, broken wrist, done for the year. Maybe it's just me, and maybe it's just because I work in the media a little bit closer this year than I have in years past, but I just feel like the amount of injuries that have taken place this year are a little higher than the usual, and to key players. And maybe that's just a coincidence that it's just been big players getting hurt. I don't know exactly what it is, but you have to think that with all of these usually offensive players that are continuing to get hurt, that something has to be wrong with either how the offenses are playing or maybe the defenses are playing harder, because you're trying to figure out all these different things that are going on with the NFL. Somebody on Periscope says maybe they're just trying to abide by the rules because the refs are so bad, so they're concentrating more on trying to follow the rules instead of playing the game, because when you try to when your brain is somewhere else and not with the game, that can cause lapses of concentration, that can cause, different issues that occur, thus leading to possibly more injuries. But with some of these things, though, I just feel like maybe there's been small targeting issues. The Jimmy Graham thing was more. It wasn't even. You don't want to call it his fault, but he really wasn't touched. He was just going up for the catch, landed weird, boom, knee, hurt his knee, done for the year. Stuff like that happens. I mean, not to bring it up for Green Bay Packers fans, but that injury to Jordy Nelson in preseason, nobody was around him, didn't get touched at all, went up, made the catch, made the routine turn, boom, torn leg, torn ACL, done for the year. It happens. A lot of times you can't do anything about it, but if you are not the Denver Broncos, the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward and you do not have Ben Roethlisberger, maybe, concussion protocol can take a week, 2, sometimes months, depending on who the player is. Look at Jared Abbrederis for the Packers. He had a concussion in the first day of practice in training camp. Finally was eligible to play halfway through the year. Just saying. Kind of crazy how that works out. But if you're going forward now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you hope that Roethlisberger can come back sooner rather than later. That way you can continue to make a strong playoff push, because the Steelers are in a good spot to not only make a decent run into the playoffs, but maybe challenge for a Super Bowl. Yes, they're without Le'Veon Bell, which was another injury that I'm sure folks are not thrilled about, but you talk about big players that are out this year: Arian Foster, Le'Veon Bell, Jamal Charles, just to name the probably three best running backs in the NFL aside from Adrian Peterson this year. And you don't have 3 out of those 4 guys in the NFL. That hurts the product of what the NFL is as a whole, but also hurts those teams' productions as a whole. If Le'Veon Bell is in, obviously this is a totally different Pittsburgh Steelers team. Jamal Charles is around. Chiefs are 6-5 right now. They're still semi-relevant, but with Jamal Charles, that team would probably be maybe a 7 to maybe 9-win team at this point. I don't know for sure. Their defense hasn't been playing awful, but a lot of those problems still center around Alex Smith. But be that as it may, Arian Foster, the Texans are 6-5 right now. I'm sure the Texans would kill to have Arian Foster instead of Alfred Blue running the ball for them right now. Be that as it may, though, going forward as a team, as an organization, when you sustain injuries to your big players, do I think that Scott Chandler will be able to step in for the New England Patriots? Yes and no. He's learned from Gronkowski. He's got Tom Brady as his quarterback. Brady makes anybody around him better. So I'm not worried about Scott Chandler and what he can bring to the table. I think that, it's going to be just fine in that regards. But still, I just feel like the amount of injuries, I think something still needs to be done. I don't know what it is. I'm not scientifically in tune enough, and maybe this is something I need to ask Connor Christensen when he's on our show tomorrow. But something I feel needs to be done, because so many injuries, I'm sure, can be either prevented based off of the way a player warms up or the way something happens with pregame preparation, or just more awareness, more heads-up play. And I know some of these injuries are freak accidents that either involve, a crazy hit or, the player. Let's look at Carson Palmer last year when he went down. He literally handed the ball off, or I think he faked the handoff, went to roll out, and just the way he turned, he tore whatever he did in his leg, and then he just went straight to the ground. No contact again. And those no contact injuries are the worst because you as a player, and I don't know, if you had to ask a player, what would you rather do? Suffer a season-ending non-contact injury or a season-ending contact injury? I don't know what people would prefer. I mean, you're going to be put in pain regardless. I feel like I don't know if I have a preference. I feel like obviously, someone on Periscope says neither. Well, obviously, but no, you never want to get hurt. But if you had to give, an option, contact, I feel like makes it a little easier just because you at least can rationalize it in your head a little bit better. Because if I'm running and my ACL tears, it's like, well, shoot, what the heck? But if I'm running and I get tackled and my leg gets caught up weird, that's somebody else's doing. It's not my fault. It's not something I did. Yes, I'm going to be mad at that person for injuring me and taking me off the field for an extended period of time. But I don't know if that's an interesting debate. I feel like that could probably go on for a lot longer. I'm curious to maybe get Sam's opinion on that as well. And you guys on Periscope and social media as well, let us know. If you had to, I never wish it upon you, but if you had to sustain a season-ending injury, would you rather it be contact or non-contact? Let us know at BG Sports Show, at Baxter Colburn, at Samuel_Wallace2, and on Facebook at the BG Sports Show. Would you rather sustain a contact or non-contact season-ending injury? Not wishing any of that upon anybody, obviously, but still something to keep in mind going forward and just a thing to think about. Jimmy Graham, going back to the NFL, Jimmy Graham is done for the year, which is awful if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, which is fantastic if you are anybody else in the NFL. And I mean, I like Jimmy Graham. I think he's a good player, but he hasn't been the greatest this year, or even last season, honestly. When he was with the Saints, he didn't play very good. I don't think that Seattle used him very well. Somebody agrees with me on Periscope as well, but is Jimmy Graham being gone from the Seattle Seahawks detrimental to their season? No, not at all. I don't think so because they didn't use him. They didn't play him the way that he made his living down in New Orleans with Drew Brees. You asked Jimmy Graham to be a blocking tight end, which he's not, instead of being an elite pass catcher, which he is, and you're going to have issues. I think Seattle could easily be a top 2 or 3 team in the NFC if they decided to use Jimmy Graham the way he was supposed to be used. It's kind of like buying a shiny new car and saying, only going to use it maybe once a week, maybe twice a month. You got to use it. If you buy something new and shiny, you go through all that trouble to trade a first-round draft pick and all whatever the heck else they traded for Jimmy Graham. You need to use it the way it was intended. I don't understand. It's like me buying a new pair of ballroom dance shoes and going out onto a muddy football field and saying, all right, I'm here to play, or I'm here to dance. It's like, what are you doing? Who is this guy? Get off the field. Like, no, that's not how it works, guys. You have to use the players that you buy and go out of your way to do the way they're intended to use, because otherwise that's how careers get crushed. That's how players' hopes and dreams and future possible Hall of Fame aspirations get crushed because they're not used properly. Seattle, you screwed up. Just saying. And now you get to suffer from it. Maybe you won't. Maybe you won't even realize that he's gone because you never used him in the first place. So that's why I really don't feel like this injury is going to bother Seattle at all. I'm sure some folks are saying, oh no, this is awful. How are we going to get by? Any Seahawk fan that has ever been a fan before the year 2012, which, let's be honest, the 12 for 12 hashtag is brilliant. Thank you, by the way. You guys just need to be quiet and realize that you guys did just fine without a tight end for years. You don't use your tight end. You don't really even use your passing game. I don't even know why you have a mobile quarterback in Russell Wilson because he doesn't throw the ball. But he does. But when he does, he's actually fairly good. So you can go on and on and on and on about that when it comes to figuring out what's going on with Seattle. Anyway, we're going to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of soccer. Major League Soccer, MLS Cup 2015, the Columbus Crew and the Portland Timbers take on each other on Sunday. And I'm going to take a look at the two teams and highlight some of the things you're going to want to watch as well on this upcoming game. We'll be back with the closing up the show right after this here on the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Sam today. Sam will be back and better than ever tomorrow, as you can get us here every Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope as well, except for today because we ran into internet issues, so we are live from 8 to 9 p.m., or 8 to 9 p.m., 8 to 9 a.m. Central. That's what it is. Just today, just due to internet issues at our other studio, so we had to go to a remote studio, and Sam had to go to class, and, blah, 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 all that stuff. Anyway, be that as it may, we're back. We're better than ever, and it's nice to be back. To close out the show today, wanted to spend a little time chatting about the wonderful world of Major League Soccer. The Columbus Crew will be taking on the Portland Timbers this coming Sunday. The game is projected to be quite the interesting one, a bit of a barn burner between these two sides. The Columbus Crew defeating the New York Red Bulls in the Eastern Conference Championship, and the Portland Timbers taking down the wonderful players of FC Dallas. I wanted to call them something else. I don't know why. I thought I was going to say the Seattle Sounders. I don't know. FC Dallas and the Portland Timbers battled, and the Portland Timbers emerged victorious. So congratulations to them. So now it is the Columbus Crew and the Portland Timbers. Portland looking for their first trophy. Looking to be relevant, looking to actually be something. They want to be somebody. They want to dance with somebody. No, that's not it. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. But let's start with the Columbus Crew, being led by Kai Kamara, who's seen a lot of publicity recently. He's been on CNN. He's been all over the place giving interviews, so folks are actually really excited about this game. The last time the Columbus Crew did anything relevant, though, they won the Supporters Shield back in 2004. Then they were kind of a hot mess for a while, and then finally came back and were able to win an MLS Cup, and that was pretty exciting for them. I was a bit surprised when they came out and won it. They won it in 2008. That was probably the best thing for the club to ever have it happen to them, and since that time, they've kind of just skidded through the playoffs a little bit. They've had a new coach. Never really did much of anything that was relevant to the soccer world. But now that they are back and they are looking to make a positive impact going forward now. But Portland, on the other hand, they've had a bit of a sloppy road this year with Fernando Adi, Darlington Nagbe, Will Johnson, Nat Brofsky as well. Or Nat Brofsky, Nat Borchers. I'm sorry, I'm getting my guys mixed up. Either way, looking at this game going forward, I feel strongly that this is a game that Portland is going to come away with a victory. And I know that my co-host for the soccer show that I host here on Sports Radio America, 2 Up Front, Simon Provan, would be thrilled to know that I'm taking Portland in this game. But realistically, Ethan Finley and Kai Kamara are fantastic for the Columbus Crew. Fantastic. Great guys. I love them both. I think Kai is one of the best forwards in the league. I think Ethan Finley needs to be in the U.S. men's national team. However, Portland has gotten hot at the right time, and that has to terrify everybody in Major League Soccer because Portland is the type of team that has so many different guys that can beat you in so many different ways. I'm mentioning Adi, Nagbe, Johnson. I can't even think of all the guys on their team right now just because they've got so many attacking options that if you upset the wrong guy, you can get burned in a second. I mean, looking at some of the other guys on their team, you talk about Asprilla, Lucas Milano, Rodney Wallace, Diego Valeri, Darlington Nagbe, Diego Chara. Even looking at the defense, Liam Ridgewell and Powell and Jewsbury, Borchers. They just have a fantastic team overall, and this is a team that will end up dominating this game through and through. Now, both teams won 15 games this year. Both teams actually finished with the exact same record at 15, 11, and 8 this year. So, congratulations to both of them for their long runs, the long, steady runs. Portland finished third in the Western Conference. Columbus finished second. Now, if I'm Portland and I want to figure out what is going to happen the rest of the way, I can kind of attribute their success to the fact that they have not lost a game since October the 3rd. So Portland has been undefeated since October 3rd. It is December 2nd today, and this game doesn't happen until Sunday, which will be the 6th. So it'll be 2 months since Portland has lost a game going into the MLS Cup final on Sunday, which is huge. That's a huge bargaining chip for them. That's a huge thing that they're able to take and hopefully utilize going forward. On the other side of it for the Columbus Crew, they lost their last game technically. Even though they won by aggregate, they still lost their last game to the Red Bulls. So even though they won the series, you still have to think the fact that the last game that they played in Major League Soccer, they lost. So that has to have some sort of a way on how Columbus approaches this game, because they are the underdogs, I feel, coming into this game. I feel like Portland has to be favored in this game by at least a goal. I don't know the official line on the game, but if I do hear it or find it here in the next moment, I will mention it. But I just feel that this is a game that Portland is very much overly prepared for, and they've been waiting for this opportunity for quite a long time, honestly, and it's about time that a team from Cascadia wins an MLS Cup. And I think it's only fitting that it's not Seattle. I think it's great if Portland is able to take this game and is able to march ahead and claim this victory. I think that it is fantastic for the organization. I think Caleb Porter has been coming under a lot of heat recently, and it would be a benefit for the entire organization if Portland is able to capture this victory against a very good Columbus Crew team. This isn't just some Columbus Crew team that you can write home about and say, oh, whatever, they're decent, maybe we'll see if they become anything. No, this is a very good Columbus Crew team, and I don't think people realize just how good they are at times. So, nevertheless, Columbus Crew, Portland Timbers, Sunday on ESPN and Unimas and all kinds of other things. Check it out. It's going to be a fantastic game. Sam will be back tomorrow. For those of you that love listening to Sam will be back tomorrow, my normal co-host here on the BG Sports Show. We will be releasing our new power rankings tomorrow, as they were supposed to come out today, but because of Sam not being on the show today, we're going to release them tomorrow. A lot of other great things. David Kenyon of Bleacher Report will be on the show as well, along with so many other things. Connor Christensen and so many other interesting and unique things that make the BG Sports Show special. Remember, you can get us right here on Spreaker and Periscope Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, and on Sports Radio America, sportsradioamerica.com, Live 365, and tune in from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time, and you can find us on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, and on Podbean as well. Go check out our website, bgsportshow.podbean.com. Become a patron if you'd like. We'd love to have you support the show, and you can get some awesome perks as well. You can also find us on social media on Facebook by liking our Facebook page, The BG Sports Show, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BG Sports Show. You can follow myself at Baxter Colburn, and Sam is Samuel_Wallace too. If you ever want to get a hold of the show, drop us an email at bgsportsshow@gmail.com. I have been Baxter Colburn. On behalf of Sam Wallace, you've listened to the BG Sports Show. We'll see you all again. Enjoy your Hump Day Wednesday. We'll see you all again tomorrow.